Hello, good evening. This is Ominous Prime, and I'd like to talk about, well, this series is going to be called Let's Talk About, and it's about the Bethesda acquisition by Microsoft. Now, it's been, a big deal in the news for video gamers, anyways, and there's a lot of questions that people are going to have about, the whole situation, and I kind of wanted to give kind of like my opinion on the situation. Okay, so Microsoft spent $7.5 billion in cash to acquire ZeniMax Media. And to put it into perspective, what Disney paid for Marvel and for Star Wars combined, this is actually more than that. And did Microsoft overpay for what they got? In a word, no. And the reason being is they got a lot with this. They got 8 studios acquired underneath ZeniMax Media. That would include studios like Bethesda Game Studios, ZeniMax Online Studios, id Software, Arcane Studios, Machine Games, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games, and Roundhouse Studios. Now, the last two, that's Alpha Dog Games and Roundhouse Studios, I'm not familiar with anything that they've put out. I think they're new to Bethesda, but they're included in there as well. They also get the publishing arm of Bethesda, and they also have intellectual properties that are included, and some of these are going to be kind of old because they have like Call of Cthulhu, Arx Fatalis. They also have Heretic, Hexen. I remember playing those, but I don't know if a lot of you are going to remember those games that are really old. But this also includes like the Evil Within. You have, of course, the Elder Scrolls series, Elder Scrolls Online, Fallout, Starfield, Doom, Quake, Rage, the Wolfenstein series. That includes like Wolfenstein 3D, as well as the New Order stuff that they've been making. You got Dishonored, Prey, Deathloop, Ghostwire, which are to be timed exclusives for the PlayStation 5. And then after that exclusivity ends, you know where it's going to end up being. All right. And also, what they received with their purchase is all the buildings that actually ZeniMax Media has for where they were actually making all these games. So those are around the globe, actually. So that's I think not something that a lot of people are really thinking about what they actually got with that. So they get some property. Now, why did Microsoft purchase ZeniMax Media, right? I mean, for the majority of us, we're probably like, that's kind of like a easy question to answer. But, I mean, here's some things that you may not have known about the actual purchase. Tencent, Google, and Apple were in talks as well to try and purchase ZeniMax Media. And there's not too many companies that actually would have been able to pull this off. So Microsoft being right up there with those. Now with Microsoft actually purchasing them, this actually prevents the situation where, I mean, imagine if Google were to purchase it and they were going to use it for Stadia, that means that all those games would not necessarily be available in physical media. It would just be on the cloud, locked there for like the future games that they would make. Or, they'll hold it exclusive to Stadia, right? Where there's like takes a big chunk of people out of that as an option. I don't know, with Tencent, I don't know what that would have meant exactly. I mean, it might have been a similar situation, and I'm pretty sure if Apple had gotten a hold of Bethesda Game Studios, they would have been making games for mobile and everything would be digital. Uh, Bethesda has a lot of assets that will benefit Xbox and Game Pass. It's not just the intellectual properties that I mentioned just a while ago for the different games that are available, right? The other things that they get is they get a veteran staff that includes Todd Howard and Pete Hines, as well as access to game engines that they didn't have before. So that can be shared between Bethesda's, 8 studios, as well as the other studios now under the Xbox Game Studios. And with Bethesda, they have an established team that's been working together for years, whereas some of the studios that Microsoft's picked up, they did some shuffling of people here and there, so perhaps they're not as put together yet as these studios are. So that's going to really help out building up their library. Now, I watched an interview earlier today that included Larry Erb, Xbox's Major Nelson, along with Phil Spencer and Pete Hines and Todd Howard. And part of it was discussing the relationships that they had with the team at Bethesda and how well they're I don't know if you would necessarily call it a friendship, but they're aware of where each other stands and they find themselves on the same path. So this was kind of like a natural next step for Bethesda, is to actually join up with Xbox. Pete Hines and Todd Howard in this interview, they pretty much explained that the other people that were that work for Bethesda found out at the same time of the announcement. So it was up to them to go ahead and explain to all of their people what happened. And a lot of the people were like, all right, so who owns us now? Xbox? Okay, that makes sense. And from there, they were apparently getting excited about what they could be doing going forward. So that's good to hear. Of course, if you ever worked for a company and had it bought out by competition, I used to work for GameStop a long time ago, and I was a store manager, and we had just gotten back from what they call a vendor show, where you get to see all the new games that are coming and be prepared for the holiday to see any new hardware that was coming out. This was back, I want to say back in 2004, 2005, 2004, I think it was. And we got back, we were told how great a job that we did, and then we found out we got bought out by GameStop. Yeah. It's like a kind of a kick in the gut. When you're like, why did we just sell our company to the competition that wasn't doing as well as we were? And the executives did well, but the rest of us were kind of scratching our heads about it. But that's a story for another time that I can get into. Now, another question that comes up is, how does this impact the rest of the games industry, right? So my thoughts on it have been that it'll attract more people to the Xbox platform and the potential of exclusives that'll be on there. PlayStation gamers may want to pick up an Xbox console as I would say secondary, but it'll probably be a third console, because a lot of people have picked up the Nintendo Switch. And the other thing is, if you didn't want to get a console, you can always get Game Pass, which will allow you to play on PC or on a mobile device, like a smartphone or a tablet. And so you have options of playing the game pretty much everywhere else except for on the PlayStation 5. Now, Bethesda published games will be available still in physical releases, which is also good. And like I was saying earlier, if it would have been Google or Apple that picked them up, we probably wouldn't have that with the future titles that they have. Now, Game Pass will be bolstered with a large library of games included. I listed that long list of games, and those older titles could kind of fill out Game Pass if they needed to. And some of those games are still fun to play. And will Microsoft keep Bethesda games exclusive to Xbox Series consoles and PC? Now, this is the big question that a lot of people have. And I look at it as like a yes and no kind of situation. And Phil Spencer has kind of mentioned that, not really showing his hand per se, but he's saying things along the lines of that it'll be taken by case basis on the different titles. Now, I'll say that Microsoft and Nintendo, they have a working relationship with some games being ported over, such as like Ori has made it over, and they also had what was previously an exclusive game, Cuphead, which I believe was also released on the PlayStation 4. And then you have, of course, Minecraft. Everybody wants to talk about Minecraft, right? That it was on multiple titles, or not titles, but on multiple devices. You can pretty much play Minecraft everywhere. And that was true when Microsoft had purchased Minecraft from, man, I can't remember his name right now. It doesn't matter. He made a bunch of money. He got like $2 billion. Notch or something like that. In any case, what I was getting at is Microsoft and Nintendo have had a history of working together. Bethesda also has that same kind of relationship with Nintendo. So there's some titles that they may still be making, such as like Doom Eternal is supposed to be still coming over, right? And that still makes sense. That's one of those contracts that existed before the acquisition happened, right? There's a potential that Microsoft will publish older ports to the Nintendo Switch and also for the Xbox. Kind of like if they were to do like a collection of older shooter games, for instance, like Heretic and Hexen. They can put that together like with Wolfenstein 3D and, kind of put like a collection together if they wanted to, or do like an Elder Scrolls collection and have some of the older games, put together. Not necessarily including Skyrim because that's already been released. Games that are multiplayer that are already on other consoles will continue for now. That would be the Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76. They're already out on those other platforms, and I think that Microsoft's going to have Bethesda, leave Bethesda alone so that they can go ahead and continue to support those games, right? And then we have what I think for games that are going to be, because when this all goes and kind of like gets locked down, it'll be 2021 where I see the future of what happens next. So what I'm thinking is the big titles are going to remain exclusive to the Xbox platform and PC. That would be Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6, whatever the next Fallout is, or if they do another Evil Within, Wolfenstein, Doom, Quake, things like that. But I think that there's a possibility for free-to-play titles. Okay, for instance, think of Rage as a battle royale type of game that could be placed on the Xbox, PC, mobile phones, tablets, PlayStation 5. And the reason why that they would put this everywhere is, one, nobody's having to buy it. You can download it free. You can play with cross-play. And I think Microsoft would like to use that as like an inroad if they were to try, and they've mentioned before that they don't want to try to get Game Pass necessarily on other consoles because it creates a problem for not just Sony but also for Nintendo to have games from other systems be available in a way to where it might hurt sales of the games on their own platforms. So this would be a different way of going about it, but it'll be a free-to-play game that people don't have to purchase, but they can get the microtransactions. And I think that's where Bethesda might have like some options there to get games published for those other consoles. Okay. The reason why I think this is, Microsoft did not just pay $7.5 billion to benefit other console manufacturers, because the industry standard is if you make a game for a console, 30% of that game's sales goes to the console manufacturer. And that's also true if you put your game on Steam. They charge you 30% there. The Epic Game Store has it lower. I don't remember the percentage. I think it's like 20% or something like that. But for the most part, it costs more to go ahead and port a game over to another console and then lose the money right off the top. So it's more of a benefit for Sony than it is for Microsoft, at least from what I can see and how the cost of a video game breaks down, than it is just to keep it as an exclusive on the Xbox and also to PC. This would give them the reason to drive people over to an Xbox console or to Game Pass, right? And we've seen this to be true based on what we've seen PlayStation do with theirs, right? With PlayStation 4, everybody likes to talk about the exclusives. The exclusives are the main selling point, because at first it was the PlayStation 4 is cheaper. It's $100 cheaper than what the Xbox One launched at, right? And at the time, the PlayStation 4 had a slight edge in power. So that, coupled with the exclusive games, that made people say, hey, this is the place I want to go ahead and purchase games, and that's where I want to be. So Sony has shown that if you keep exclusives on your console, people will go and buy your console, even if they wish it was available on other places. So I think Microsoft's going to adopt that philosophy because it worked. Now, a lot of you are going to be like, well, isn't that anti-consumer to go ahead and do? Because these games used to be available on all the other platforms. And again, in a word, no. Microsoft is adding value to their product in the same way that Sony does with their consoles. Sony has made a bunch of different deals to try and add value to the PlayStation consoles, such as that Spider-Man deal that they made for Avengers, where nobody else gets Spider-Man but the PlayStation. Other deals would be like, I don't know if you know this, but Sony was in talks with Bethesda to try and make Starfield an exclusive game for the PlayStation 5. They've also done this with Final Fantasy VII Remake, to where they made it a timed exclusive, and with Final Fantasy 16, where that's a timed exclusive, and No Man's Sky, and so on and so on and so on. And nobody's called foul, right? Everybody's like, Sony makes good deals because people like to have these deals for their console, the PlayStation 4. And they would like to see those deals continue on the PlayStation 5. If the other people don't get it, boo hoo for you. Come join us over here on Sony's platform, right? Microsoft's doing the same thing, so I can't get mad at that. And just so everybody knows, I play on pretty much everything. I got a Switch, I got a PlayStation 4, I got an Xbox One. We did manage to get that Xbox Series X pre-ordered, so hopefully it doesn't get canceled or delayed in shipment or some other thing. But we also game on PC, and also up until recently the 3DS. Now the kids play on that and the 2DS. And the last thing that people are speculating that I'm going to talk about tonight is what studio will Microsoft acquire next. And I started seeing this today, but as soon as the Bethesda thing happened and the CEO of Microsoft was saying that they were going to go ahead and continue to purchase studios where it made sense, the first thing that came to mind was Sega Sammy. And let me tell you why. Sega has such a rich history in Japan and such a huge library of intellectual properties. And in Japan, they legit have such a presence, even though many would say that they've kind of fallen on hard times, as it were, as far as putting out decent games. And they're like, oh, here comes another Sonic. Oh, when are they going to make something different, right? I mean, I can list off the titles that they have there, going back all the way to like Afterburner, Virtua Cop, Vectorman, Valkyria, Thunderblade. You know, they have Shenmue that they made, Golden Axe. You know, there's so many Sega games that were made. And the key component, though, is Atlas. Atlas is a subsidiary of Sega Sammy. So if Microsoft were to get that, that is a treasure trove of JRPGs that the Xbox has not had. And how awesome would it be to see Atlas take a shot of bringing back some of the... Man, I can't remember the game that Miss Walker made. I remember the guy's name. Man, it's so long ago. In any case, you probably know which one I'm talking about, and no, it's not Blue Dragon. I have it over there on the shelf, but I'm not going to go and get it right now. The thing is, if they were to secure Sega, they would get games like Catherine, Odin Sphere, Persona series, Shin Megami Tensei. There's a bunch of other ones that they have as part of their catalog of games that they've made. But this would help Microsoft get a foothold in Japan, and if anything, a possibility, I would say, of doing like a partnering of rebranding it in Japan with perhaps like Sega branding on top of the Xbox Series consoles that are released there. I think it would make it very attractive to the Japanese audience, plus having all those games release on there. Now, I know people would cry foul on this one because of people have a lot of nostalgia for like the Sega Genesis, and people associate games like Persona with PlayStation. But I think that Sega Sammy is actually ripe for Microsoft to go and pick up and add to their studios. And maybe they would partner up in a way that they did with Bethesda here. Now, Tokyo Game Show's tomorrow, and it's already been tweeted out by Xbox that they have no news to announce any acquisitions that are being made. Some are taking that to run with to say that no, Microsoft's not buying Sega. And I think that there's something in the works here, and we'll see how it plays out. Uh, Sega's been posting a bunch of pictures online with like Sonic with like two drinks, one with the black straw and one with a white straw, and all I could, and it's in a green liquid. The only thing I can conclude was, hey, it's Xbox, and then you have the black one, which is the Series X, and the white one, which is the Series S, and Sonic chilling there. It could also just mean at the moment all they have to announce is some other games that'll be released on Game Pass. Now they already have the Yakuza series that was put on there, but perhaps they'll have some new things that they can show. All right. Now, if you like this, we're about at the end of this video. If you like, what I'm talking about here, and you like to engage, go ahead and give a subscribe to the channel. And if you like to see what other people think, or you'd like people to hear this, feel free to share, drop a like. If you didn't like it, go ahead and give a dislike, and maybe give me a comment and let me know what I can improve on. I'm still new here on YouTube trying these videos out. I like to do a one take. I don't necessarily like to go in and re-edit these, but over time I'll be able to go ahead and upgrade software and things like that, so I can get a better quality video and put more work into editing it. All right, well, it's getting late. I gotta go to bed. So I'll see you next time. All right.